respond back onto the chat window. I haven't got any assignment submission from you people yet. I assume that I had given you all a brief, very small assignment wherein you were supposed to handle multiple user account on the basis of shared preferences. Just let me know if I'm correct here. Ajay, Rojan, Srinivas, I think you are the three attendees till this point of time. So can you all respond back onto the chat window? But I haven't got any assignment submission yet, Ajay. Neither from Rojan, neither from Srinivas. All right. All right, Srinivas. All right, got it. I was just assuming, as I just assumed that you were right. I think the emails just created some sort of confusion. No problems, Srinivas. I'll just take a look at it. All right, and then provide my feedback to you on the project. All right. Ajay says they were not able to see the videos. What exactly was the problem, Ajay? Can you just let me know onto the chat window? Rojan was also complaining about could not get hold of the last class's recording. What exactly is that? Can you just brief me a little? What happened? Were you not provided the videos? Were the provided videos were not adequate? What was exactly the problem, Rojan and Ajay? Can I have responses back onto the chat window? Because it's just that whenever you people are responding, then only I come to know that we are online and we are together. All right, you got the video on Saturday. Okay. And what about Rojan? Rojan, did you also receive the video on Saturday? All right. All right, Srinivas says the assignment part was missing in the video. I got it on Friday. No problems. I'll just check it up with my support staff here. All right, I'll just check it up and I'll just try to resolve this problem at the earliest because it should not happen in the future classes. I understand that it might have been a problem for a single class, but it should not happen for the class that we have coming up. All right, I'll just make sure about this. All right, Ankit has also just joined in. So Ankit, can you hear me up? Can you just respond back onto the chat window? If you all can hear me up, Ankit, you can hear me up. All right, let's wait for another few minutes as I assume that people have not joined in yet. So we have just got few people who have joined in. All right, in the meanwhile, other people are joining in. As I said, any doubts, any queries, any questions in any of the topics that have been taught till now, anything that you're trying out by yourself and you're having some problems understanding something, you can respond back onto the chat window. So should I assume that whatever has been taught till now is clear to everyone? I got that assignment, Ajay. I got the first assignment. I'll just provide my feedback onto your email. Don't worry on that part. All right, any questions, any queries, anything that you feel like asking me? What all have you tried? What all you have not tried? Let me tell you today why I'm asking you all this is because from today onwards we'll be starting working on the project. All right, so the ultimate objective of this complete course is making every single attendee be capable of building up their own projects. All right, so from now on, that is after we finish the fourth class, we'll be working on a project which you all have to submit to me, or say on the support email ID. You all can submit the projects, and then we'll be having a competition that goes on from within the batch. Whosoever creates the best project will be rewarded, or say will be provided some rewards out of from our side. So all right, so that is what the motive behind this complete course is. It's making you enable to making you all like capable enough of creating our own project. All right. I hope this sounds good to everyone. Any person having any doubts, any queries, any questions in all the things that I have talked till now? That's correct, Trojan. We'll be working with some web services also that I'll be covering up in the coming classes. All right. So that part will also be taken care of. Don't know why people are joining in late today. All right. Vijay says what kind of apps we can make. Ajay says what kind of apps we can make. Ajay, there have been a list of applications that you all can try creating that have been provided to you onto your respective LMS accounts. So you can just log into your LMS accounts and see all the projects that have been put up for all of you. All right, so that is where you can just see all the projects, just read the project descriptions, read the requirement documents, and then I think you'll be able to create our own project. Let's wait for another few minutes. I assume that everybody should be joining in another 3 minutes here. Ajay says, can we make some other projects? Yes, Ajay, you can think about making some other projects, but let me tell you about that. If you're trying to think or creating a new project, you have to apply or say comply with the timelines that we have for the project submission. So how it is set up is like this. We start working on the project from the 4th week onwards, and we try to finish it up by 6th week. All right, so that is the plan. So if there is anything that can be doable, can be achievable in a span of 2 weeks, then definitely you can take care of that, and you can take our help if you feel like asking anything. But if it requires more effort than 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then I think we have to take care of some other project and think of some other solution. All right, so that is how we progress. All right, Ayush has also just joined in. Ayush, can you hear me up? Can you respond back on the chat window if you can hear me up? All right. All right, so we have we have a decent amount of attendees just joined in. So we'll wait for another few minutes. PNR status apps can be made within 2 weeks. It can be done within 2 weeks, Ajay, but in that case, you have to read the complete HTML data. First of all, you need to just check how you'll be picking up data for the PNR status inquiry. All right. So you have to create your own server component, which will be querying up the Indian Railways component and then give you the data for it. So it involves two-way process. One is client, one is server. So the server part has to also be taken care of in the PNR status inquiry apps. It's like you'll be getting the PNR input from the user, hitting it up, and then respond back onto the chat window. I think, Ajay, there are many applications onto the Google Play which require the PNR status. So what I would suggest to everyone is just think about something new. If you all want, I can show you a small example here, which one of the candidates has just made. I'll just show you a nice creative idea that he has come up across. So this is the children learner canvas that he has created. I'll just show you how it looks like. So it's majorly an application that will make or say ask or require a child to learn some new concepts, like learn the alphabets, learn the English alphabets, learn the Hindi alphabets, and kind of stuff. Let me show you by running this up. See, this is a children learner canvas that has been created by him. All right. So he can actually, a student can choose from various languages. If he wants to learn Hindi, if he wants to learn English, if he wants to learn mathematics, drawing, anything. If I chose Hindi here, so it will ask me, what do you want to learn? Do you want to learn the swara, the vyanjana, and if you want to go back to home, there's a button for it. So the UI is a little, I would say, is a little plain here, but we'll definitely work on it, and I think we'll be able to resolve this up. So if I say I want to learn Hindi swar, then it asks me what swar do you want to learn. So if I, for example, if I go on to so it will show me the word here, and I also have access onto my window to just try and just create this one up. Alright, so nice idea that he has come across with, wherein people can learn just looking at the alphabets and trying to create them onto their devices. So a very good example that he has come across with. I hope everybody is liking this. Any person not liking this idea of his, I personally feel that this idea is a very good idea that he has come across with. So this is the kind of idea that I expect from everyone, right? Not all the tried and tested ones. It has to come up with something new. It is just that the UI is a little plain here, but apart from that, everything seems to be going good here. All right, it's 9:11 now, so we should start with this session. If anybody is missing out, so we'll be just seeing the videos and then getting started. All right, so here we go. I had left out one topic in the last class, which was the date and time pickers. So when we were covering the various widgets, when we were covering the various shared preferences and all, right, there's another widget which we call the date and time picker. How many of you have seen the date and time pickers inside the Android application setting window? How many of you have seen that? All right, if I show you here, let me just take you here. I go on to settings here. All right, not the developer ones. All right, Akshay has also just joined in. Akshay, I hope you can hear me up. Akshay, can you just respond back onto the chat window if you can hear me up? So I go on to settings here, and what I can do in settings is I can just go on down. I click on date and time, all right, and here I see a window. You can see that if I do not use the network provided ones, I can set a date by myself. All right, here you see a dialog box, all right, for the date picker. If I click on done, it will save the changes. Similarly, a set time window, which is again a dialog box which opens up and takes the time input. So sometimes in our application creation, what we need is we need the date and time to be picked up from the user entry box, or say the user has to provide an entry for the date and time, right? So how we are going to achieve that, let me show you that. So here I have created an activity. Under the activity I have initialized a layout file. Let me show you what my layout file contains here. So if you see, my layout file contains two buttons. One is the date picker button and one is the time picker button. So when I'll be clicking on the date picker button, I'll be opening up a date picker dialog box. Whenever I'll be clicking on the time picker button, I'll be asking or opening up a time picker dialog. How am I going to open that up? I just created two buttons here. And here I have created two object references of date picker dialog. As I said, whatever the date picker or the time picker, they open up in a dialog box entry format. So that's why I have created two date picker and time picker dialog boxes. Akshay, I hope you can hear me up. Can you respond back onto the chat window? Here I have access to the set content view. I set the content, took the button references for the click listeners, all right? Then I created button date picker on click listener. Here, look, what am I doing? I'm initializing the date picker dialog box with a new object reference of the date picker dialog box, and I'm passing in a few parameters as the default parameters. If you look into it, it takes as an input arguments the context, that is the activity context. Then it takes on date set listener as a callback. Then it takes int year, int month of year, and int day of month as the input arguments. So when I talk about these input arguments, what I necessarily mean is that these input arguments are going to be the ones that will be shown as a default date and time, right? Similarly, I do it for the time picker. Again, the only difference being the time picker dialog and the date picker dialog object references. Let me show you that by running this up. I have also created two emulators today, and I'll show you what exactly is the difference that I want to make with the use of the emulators, so that everybody can understand how the backward compatibility works in Android versions. So here if you see, I click on the date picker, So it opens up a dialog box for me, which will take the input as the date. If you see here, the input being provided to the date picker is something like this. It says 23rd December 2012. Why it is December? Is the reason because date picker takes or starts the month values beginning from 0, right? So if I have to go to December, then in that case I have to give it a value 11 because it starts from the value 0. Any person having any doubts here? Understanding why the month value is being passed on as 11, though it is showing as a December, that is a 12th month in the date picker. Can I have responses back onto the chat window if this is understood or not? I need responses from everyone, alright? So this is how a date picker works. So let's see how we have created a date picker callback. So let me tell you about date picker callback. So here what I have done is I have created a on date set listener. My date callback that I'm passing to my date picker, if you see here, has been created downwards. So I say private date picker dialog box dot on date set listener. So this will get called only when I'll be setting or selecting any date from the date picker. If you see here, if I go on to the date picker and I click on done, you see I get a toast notification which says the date selected is 23/12/2012. Alright, so that means it is showing up a toast notification whenever I make use or create any date here. So whenever I create an on date set listener, it asks me to override an on date set method here. Everybody can see that this is an overridden method. It takes as an input argument, if you see the view, the date picker view that took the click event, right? Then it takes the input arguments as year, month of year, and day of month. So whatever has been selected by the user, so view will give me the date picker's view, and year argument will give me the year that was selected by the user. Similarly, month of year will give me the month that was selected by the user, and similarly the day of month will give me the day of the month that was selected by the user. If you see here, I'm incrementing the month of the year by 1. Can everybody check this up? Now here's a question for everyone. Why am I incrementing this month of year here? Though I have already told you about this. Anyone who can just make out why am I incrementing the month of the year value by 1? That's correct, Srinivas. Right. Right, absolutely. Let me also have responses from all the other candidates because let's see how many were attentive here. No, it's +1, Rojan. It's not -1, it is +1. I'll tell you, Akshay, I had told you that month values, whenever we work with a date picker, the month values start from the value 0. So a value from 0 to 11 are all the valid values. So if I say I'm selecting value 11, that means ultimately I'm selecting the December, which is 12th for me, not the 11th for Android. It is 11 for Android, but it is 12 for me. So that's why I have to make the necessary adjustments in order to make the date and month values understood by me. So that's why this increment to the month of year. Rest all the parameters can remain the same. Alright. So that is how it works. So I create a date picker callback and attach this callback onto my date picker dialog box. And that is how it works. I just do a date.show, so it will open up the dialog box for me. Similarly, I'm doing it for the time picker. Time picker also takes it 3 arguments. If you see here, what all are the argument list? Context, time picker dialog box callback, hour of day, minute, and it is also showing me a boolean variable which says is 24-hour format. Let me tell you about this boolean variable. If this particular boolean variable is set to be false, alright, so that means whenever a dialog box will open up for the time picker, it will open up in a 12-hour format. Everybody got my point? I'll just show you that. So here I open up the time picker. If you see, what is the format of the time picker? Can anybody tell me it's 12-hour or 24-hour format? That's correct. It is a 24-hour format, right? It is a 12-hour, sorry, it is a 12-hour format. So I can just choose on from the values, and when I click on done, it will show me whatever time was selected, right? It says 1820, that is 6:20 is the time that I selected up. Now, if I just make a few changes and I do a for true here, so this will open up the time picker dialog for me, which is going to be in 24-hour format. I hope everybody got my point here. What is meant by this Boolean flag here for the time picker and for the time picker dialog? Let's take a look here. So if I go on to the time picker, now it is a 24-hour format. You can see that. Keep on scrolling up, and here goes the 24-hour format. If I click on done, it will show me a 24-hour format. That's correct. The Boolean is just holding the data, whether you want to open up a a time picker in a 24-hour format or a 12-hour format, depending on the format that you want to pick up by the user. So some countries prefer the 24-hour format, some countries prefer the AM/PM format. So that way you can just identify which format you want to show in the time picker, and it will automatically show up that format. In order to work on the time picker dialog, what am I doing? I'm having to implement a time callback. The time callback gives me an overridden method which says on time set. So whenever a time picker will take an input, it will give me the following parameters, which is the view. So the time picker that took the click event, the hour of the day, which hour of the day took the click event, and also the minute. So whatever was there filled in the time picker is being provided to me by the on time set listener, and I'm just raising it as a toast notification. Alright, let me also show you some things here. So you see, if I'm having or running Android OS version 4.0 and above, let me show you that. Very interesting thing that I am going to show you that. The same piece of code works differently or renders different UI elements. Sure, I'll do that for you, Akshay. Here is the place. You see this? On the time picker dialog, you pass another argument, which is a Boolean argument, which will set it up. If it is set to true, it will say 24-hour format. If it is set to false, it will say 12-hour format. You see a date picker. If I try to open up in a post ICS versions, you see a date picker like this. Let me just run the same piece of code onto an Android emulator that is working or running on 2.2. And you will see the difference. The only difference that we always talk about in terms of the usability aspect. Now see this up. I hope everybody understands what I'm trying to point out here. Depending on the OS version, the UI widget will also change accordingly. That's correct? Agree, disagree, everyone? Alright, so that is how it works up. If I go on to for the time picker, you'll see a different time picker now, because Android OS version 2.2 supports these kind of UI frameworks, these kind of layouts. So that's why it is like this one. That's correct. Ajay, it is the older version which is running on Android OS 2.2. Alright, so I just wanted to show you all like this, how you can separate out the various versions of Android applications. That's correct, Trojan. It looks better because in a way it gives you more look and feel of the date and time picker, which is not the case with 4.0. Let me tell you about this also, because if you might have used iPhone, alright, on the Apple devices, what we have is we have a complete spinner type of a element for the date and time picker. Has anybody used iOS devices? Let me tell you, it is like the one that you have here. It will be very much like that. You'll see a date picker just coming up from the bottom, and which will give you a circular feel to the date and time pickers. So it's just that Android thought about using the same kind of behavior when they were building on ICS versions. So that's why you see it something very similar to the iOS framework. Though the older one looks good. That's correct. It gives you 3 cycles, right? Alright, so any person having any doubts, any understanding issues in understanding the date and time pickers can respond back onto the chat window, and then we can move ahead with the class 4 here. Let me just switch my workspace here. We haven't discussed on the assignment part yet because I think I just got one submission from Srinivas. Alright, so I haven't discussed about the assignment. I would actually wait for everybody to finish up the assignment, and then only I'll be able to discuss on the assignment part. Actually, I just couldn't look into the assignment. I'm sorry about this, mate, but I'll definitely get back to your email once I'm finished with the class. Alright, so or if you also want to just talk to me, you can just take my Skype ID. You all have access to my Skype IDs, and then after the class we can discuss it on Skype. Alright, so after the class I think we can discuss it on this Skype, Akshay, as we did with the last class with Sumanta. So I think I can spend some time with you. I hope that is fine with you, Akshay. Any doubts, any queries here? If your query is not specific, you can ask me the query here straight away, Akshay. If it is not specific to the project, then I think we can just take care of that query here. I'll wait for Akshay to respond back. Can I have the response back onto the chat window, Akshay? Alright, Akshay, I think were you making use of the shared preferences? Can you just respond back onto the chat window? So Akshay says he was trying to store the data and he was making use of the shared preferences. Alright, so Akshay, do not worry on that part. I think we can spend 15-20 minutes together after the session, and I'll be resolving that up for you. Alright, it's just that I'm a lot loaded on the weekdays, so that's the reason why I could not look into it. But do not worry, we can spend some time together, and then I think we can resolve it up. Alright, then let's talk about how we'll be storing information onto the device. If you all remember, we talked about the shared preferences in the last class. How many of you remember how exactly a shared preferences work? Anybody who wants to voluntarily tell me about the complete implementation of using the shared preferences? Anyone? Whosoever wants to just explain me the complete concept of using a shared preference. Rojan, you want to try it? Srinivas? Anyone who wants to try it up? Nobody wants to try this up? Alright, Akshay, do you want to speak up? Alright, I'll allow Akshay to speak up about shared preferences. Alright, Akshay, you can speak now.
Basically, I think we can save the data from taking it from the user itself using shared preferences.
Okay.
And for applying that, should I go for the code itself?
No, I think we'll take it like this. I'll let you speak up, right? And I'll just do it for my. Alright. So what I mean by shared preferences is I have a file, I have an application. My application can write data to a file. Alright. The file that my application writes its data to is stored under the applications directory. Just correct me if I'm wrong, Akshay. Alright.
Yes.
For example, I'm having com.ts.example app. Alright, so this is my application folder. So whatever I'll be writing, whatever information that I'll be writing, I'll be storing it up as a shared preference file inside this particular folder. Is that correct?
Yes.
So whenever my application gets uninstalled from the device, what will happen to this particular file, Akshay? Everyone. Yes, go ahead.
The file we have already saved here will get saved in a particular folder. We can go in that folder from I don't exactly remember the name, but no yes, from DDMS. I know the process. to
All
be
right.
from DDMS.
What I'm asking to everyone is, once I uninstall the application from my device, so if my application is not there, what will happen to this file?
The information we have stored will be available there for us. There also.
That's all right. All right. Let me tell you, this will also get uninstalled. The reason why. All right, Akshay, I think I can mute you up now.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Let me tell you about this. What will happen in this case is this will also delete this application file. Reason being, this is housed under the application folder, and once the application folder goes off, this file will automatically get deleted. All right. Similar to something holding data like a shared preference, but how does shared preference store data? Can anybody tell me how does shared preference stores the data? Does it store the data in the key value format, or does it store the data in some other format? That's correct. It stores the data in the key value pairs. But we sometimes require that we do not make use of the shared preferences, because we might be needed to write some data that is huge. And secondly, we might not need the data to be associated with a key value mapping. There comes the use of storing information onto the device. So if I talk about the Android storage, what all are the possible options that are available for everyone to just start storing the information onto the devices are, there are the internal storages, there is the external storage, then we have the shared preferences, then we have the SQLite databases. So we have already talked about shared preferences, and we know how exactly the shared preferences work. We'll talk about the SQLite databases in the coming classes. All right. Now let's talk about, first of all, the internal and the external storage. So internal storage is something wherein you can save files directly onto the device's internal storage. By default, the files saved to the internal storage are private to your application. Just remember, or just read it up very carefully what I'm trying to say. The applications or the files that are saved to the internal storage are private to your application, and other application cannot access that data, nor can the user. What can one make out of these lines? And also, when a user uninstalls your application, these files are automatically removed. Can anybody draw similarities between a shared preferences file and an internal storage? I hope they are very much similar. Just correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone, I need responses back onto the chat window. Akshay says they are very much the same. They are permanent. That's correct, Srinivas. Both are files and both get uninstalled. The only difference between a shared preference file and an internal storage file is that a shared preference stores data in the XML format. It stores data in the key value mapping, but a shared, or say internal file, is a flat text file. It is a flat file that we talk about. Everybody understand what I mean by a flat file or a text file? Right? So it is a flat file. So what we can store data, whatever data we want to store, we can store it as a flat file data. All right. So let's see a working example of the internal storage, how you'll be working with it. All right. Flat file is .text file, the text file, Akshay. It's like something which is very unformatted, not in a formatted manner. Like an Excel file is a formatted file, or CSV file is a formatted file. But a flat file is something which is very like holding raw data. First of all, you have to, if you want, yes, you can use the delimiters, but necessarily the delimiters will be the ones that will be having their logic associated, Rojan. All right. So the logic has to be taken care of by the user. The file does not identify any logic at all. So first of all, you will be calling the file for output mode. You will be first open a file output with the name of the file and the operating mode. So there are various operating modes to the file. First of all, you will create a new file. Then you will try to append data to an already existing file. So there are various modes of opening up a file. What happens is the open file output method gives you a file output stream object. Let me just show you by running this up and also explaining you the code, so that it is more clear to everyone. So here I go, open up my internal storage folder here. So this is my internal storage activity to show you what am I doing in this activity. Alright, so here what I have is, I have a layout which contains a name parameter, then I have a phone number parameter, then I have a save information button at the bottom. So whatever name and phone number I'll be entering up, I can save that data up inside my internal storage file. Alright, so let me show you how am I going to do that up. So I go on to the internal storage activity.java file, take the reference of the text view and number. Let me show you what I also have here at the bottom is a text view for holding the data, showing the data to the user. So this will show the name data, which is not holding any data at all. Presently it's blank here, and similarly I'm having a text view for holding the data of the phone number. Create the references, edit boxes, save listeners, button save. Get the references of the name and the number. Here I have created a function for reading the file, but at present we haven't written anything onto the file system. So we'll just comment this up and go ahead. And here you see on the button save listener, what am I doing? I'm checking for the length of my phone number. So I'm just restricting the user to enter 10 digits or more for my contact number, right? So that is a validation that I'm just putting up here. So if my validation is failing, I just raise a toast notification which says please input valid number for the contacts and just return from this on click listener. If everything goes fine, what I'm doing is I get the name, I get the number from the edit box references, create an end of line separator. Alright, what we call the /n. Alright, I'm creating an end of line separator, creating a buffered writer object. Because what am I doing? Am I going to write something onto the file system, or am I going to read it back from the file system? What am I going to do? Everyone, I'm writing a file, alright? So that's why what object reference I need? I need a writer object, right? I took the writer object, gave it as an input argument the file output stream writer, alright? What the file output stream writer returns to me is, or say takes as an input argument, is the open file output method. What this returns to me is a file output stream writer object. I open the file for output. The name of the file that I have provided here is user information. So that is the name that I'm associating my file with. And here I am saying world mode writable. So what I mean by world mode writable is that anybody can write information onto this file system. Any person having any problems in understanding these two lines till now can respond back onto the chat window. If everything is clear, just write go ahead so that I can just move ahead. I'll wait for everybody to respond back. Alright, Ajay wants me to repeat again. I'll do a repeat for you, Ajay. So Ajay, I'm creating a buffered writer object. I'm initializing the buffered writer object with a new output stream writer, because whatever I'll be writing onto the file system, I'll be writing it as a stream, which takes as an input arguments output open file output method. So what this open file output method will do for me is it will open up a private file, all right, for writing. And just see here what it does is it creates the file if it doesn't exist, all right. So that is what my open file output will do, and finally pass on the object to the writer. I hope this is clear to you now. Akshay, the second line got clear to you? Can I have responses back onto the chat window? Akshay, I hope the second line is clear to you now. It appends at the end of the file if the file already exists. No, it will just create another copy of the file. It won't append the file. It will just remove the content and add the new content here. For that, in order to use an append mode, you'll be using this particular file, particular operation mode. Akshay. Alright, so let's keep it to world mode writable now and go on to the other method. It says writer object dot write y semicolon on line just above the read the file. Where is it? Y semicolon on line just above the read the file. Where is it, Srinivas? I think I cannot get it up. Can you just guide me where exactly are you seeing that? This is the function. Here it is. Now let me know about it. Okay, the listener. That's correct. Alright, you were talking about this, right? So that is the listener. Alright, so here I create writer dot write name and appending an end of line separator to it. Similarly, number and appending an end of line separator to it. So it's just that I'm placing the name and number in 2 lines. Alright, so that is what my end of line separator does here. And then what I'm calling is, I'm calling the writer dot close. So I need to close the file writer. So I have closed this file writer, and that is all that I need to do here. So let's see this by running up. So here you see, so if I input any value here, for example, I input my name here and I input my contact number here. Once I click on save information, it should save the information for me onto the file storage. Let's find this out. Akshay, you have to guide me here. Where will you be finding it up? You have access to the file explorer now. I am into the DDMS perspective, Akshay. Now what? That's correct. I'm inside the file explorer now. Now what? Alright, got it. He goes to data, then go on to the data, and then find the package. Very good, Akshay. Impressive. Alright. So here I find the package. So the package that I have to find is com.ds.samples. Let's find this up. So let's find .com.ds.samples here. Here you find that. Once I open it up, there's a section created for files. Once I open it up, it gives me the file user information. Let's pull this out. Let's pull this out onto my desktop here. And let's see what this file contains. Let's go to the desktop now. So here I have the user information file. I try to open this up. So I'll open it up with a WordPad, for example. Can you see the data that is being saved into the file? Can everybody see this data? So it contains my name, then it contains the end of line, then it contains my number, and then again an end of line. Alright, so we have written the information back onto the file very successfully. But now let's read this back. Alright, we have written the information. Now we want to save or see the information whatever has been written. Let's go on. Uncomment the read the file system here. Once you read the file, alright, you'll see a few things. Changes, just see the changes here. Object references change. First of all, I was reading a buffered writer. Now what am I going to read? I'm going to read a buffered reader object. I create a reader object. Now instead of the output file stream, I'll be using an input stream reader, right? Again, this method returns the same. Open file output with the name of the file. Open file for input, I was opening a file for output in that particular sense. I create a counter variable, initialize this counter variable to 0, and I say while I'm reading the line from the file system. If you see here, while my line is equal to reader.read line until the time it returns me null. So when is it supposed to return me null? Anyone who can think about it? When is it supposed to return me null? That's correct. Trojan says when the end of file is when the end of file is being read. So that is the way it has to work. Whenever it finds the end of file, so it will return me null. Till the time it is not finding the end of file, I say if my counter equal to 0. So I have initialized my counter with 0, right? So my counter will be 0 for the very first time. I say text view name dot set text with the value that is being stored in the line parameter and increment the counter. So now the counter goes on to 1. I go again. Since I have 2 lines in my file, I'll go again in the while loop. This time the counter will not be equal to 0. It will be instead 1. So I go into the else and I say text view number dot set text with the line that I'm being reading from the file. Let's do a control S here. Let's do a run on this particular application. And here you see the data being read from the file system is automatically getting displayed here. Any person having any doubts, any issues in understanding this internal storage mechanism can respond back onto the chat window. Anyone having any sort of doubts? So here it is my question for you. Suppose you have to write, alright, can we use the same way to read info in a share buffer? I think I have told you the way. The only difference in the way, Akshay, is of the way of reading the file. Instead of writing the objects, you'll be using the objects that are there for reading the file. What about if we have multiple variables? What do you mean by multiple variables, Ajay? I hope, Akshay, this is clear to you. Means here only 2 lines, Ajay Kumar says. Alright, if you are saying you have multiple lines, is that correct, Ajay? Then in that case you have to change the logic. Presently the logic works like this: if counter equal to 0, alright, so what you can do is you can just use the counter, alright, do a while and read it up as line by line onto a separate file or say an array list, store them up in an array list of string variables and then iterate through them. If you want to iterate through that, in that sense, you can create an array list of string variables and then add them up to an array list and iterate through the array list the way you feel like. Alright, I hope this is clear to everyone. Rojan, Ankit, Akshay, anyone having any doubts here? So my question for everyone, when should I be using the internal storage? When should I be using the internal storage? It's my question for everyone. Just think, because I can answer it, but I just want everybody to think, when should we be using the internal storage? I'll wait for a minute for everybody to think here and respond back onto the chat window. What we want to store data for, back your purpose, I think 10, registration page, data, when more data is involved. I'll take it like that. How many of you have used the gaming applications? Any gaming application that people would have used? Alright, Rojan, Angry Birds. So if you would have seen, Angry Birds take care of, say, what all are the files that are needed, like what is the highest score, it takes care of that. It takes care of the levels that you are going through. Is that correct? Just let me know, everyone. Alright, so where should it store the data? It has two options. One is a shared preference file and one is a flat file. Alright, so they can store the data in a shared preferences or they can store the data in a flat file. So that is how we can make use of the internal storage mechanism in order to share some data onto our file system. I hope everybody understands where it can be used up. Alright, so that is how we share some or say store some data onto the internal storage. But we can everybody knows that every Android device is capable of holding an SD card. Everyone knows about this? The only difference between a shared preference file and a flat file, Ankit, is that shared preferences are stored as an XML file. However, the flat or say the internal storage files are saved as a flat file. The second difference is that shared preferences contain the file in the key value mapping. So if you want to retrieve any value back from the shared preferences, you retrieve it from a key name. However, in case of a flat file, you have to do your iterations yourself. That's correct, Trojan. Flat files, I would not say that they are more flexible for use in programming terms. I would rather put it like this. It's like the flat files are the ones that you can manipulate yourself. Alright, so if I talk about shared preferences, they are the ones that you have to manipulate from the framework. But flat files, you can just provide some few delimiters by yourself and then all that will be done by you. Let me tell you, they are not encrypted. Ankit has asked me a question here. Are the shared preferences files encrypted? And Ankit, they are not encrypted, but they are not accessible to the user. Both the files, the internal storage and the shared preferences ones, are not the ones that are accessible to the user. I hope this is clear to everyone. Now let's talk about something that is accessible to the user. So if you see, I have an external storage system, alright, external storage or what should I call it as an SD card. So every Android compatible device supports a shared external storage that you can use to save your files, alright. So the files that are saved to the external storage, just remember the words here, are world readable and can be modified by the user. So what does I mean? What do I mean by these lines? Anybody who can think about it? Can I have responses back onto the chat window? What do I mean by world readable? That's correct. User can see. Now let's take an example. What you have done is you have created a file and stored it out on the SD card. Now the user has access to the SD card. Alright, now he makes a few editing onto your file system. Now you are trying to read back information from the file system, and due to users editing or removal of the file system, your application is getting crashes. Alright, is that correct? That is a normal phenomena, right? But then why do we need to store something onto the SD card if the user can manipulate the data? Can anybody think about it? Anyone who can think about it? Alright, let's take an example. It's like I'm creating an application that actually houses the images that are being taken from the camera into my application. Very nice application. Like I'm having an application that takes the image and stores it somewhere. I'm not using a server for caching. I'm not using a server for storing the image. Where should I place this image? If I be placing my image onto the application folder, will it not burden my APK? Or say, will it not burden my application? Everyone. Can everybody respond back? I hope the example is clear to everyone. That's correct, Akshay. And also it's correct. That's like we won't be having that big memory as the internal storage. RAMs, if you all know, are very much short in size, right? So there comes a requirement wherein we have to store some data onto the SD card, even knowing that the user might be deleting them. Very normal phenomena. Everybody agrees here or disagrees? So that is where we'll be using the external storage. Alright, so how we'll be using it at? So first of all, you have to check whether the media or the SD card is being mounted onto the device or not. So that you can check using the get external storage state. Again, few API changes. If you are using API level 8 or greater, you'll be using an external get external cache directory. Alright, or if you're using API 7 or lower, you'll be using a full method which says get external storage directory to open a file. Let me show you a working example of this. Here I go. The UI I have kept the same. If you see here, I have kept the UI as it is. It shows me the name, the number, the save information button, and also the two text views at the bottom. I go on to external storage activity. I have two text views, name, number. Then I have edit text boxes for the user input. Here you see I'm setting up an ET number as the phone number type so that it will open up the keyboard for me for only the input of the telephone numbers. That is again one more thing that I have added inside this application, because it was asked to me by a candidate that how will you restrict the keyboard to have any sort of input. You would have seen like the applications would have taken care of this. Like somewhere you have to enter numbers only. So the keyboard that opens up is for numerics only. How many of you have seen that? Alright, so that is what exactly I manage when I try to open up the keyboard. I set an input type. I set an input type to the edit text, and that is where it identifies what sort of keyboard it has to open up. Alright, so I say ET number has to have an input type of numerics. Create the button save, create the references for the text view numbers. I have the method read the file. Let's comment this up because we won't be reading the file before writing anything to the file. See, name and number being picked up from the edit boxes, creating an end of line separator, creating a file information. See what I'm doing here. I'm actually creating a file to be opened up in the writable mode. I'll just do a debug and also show you how exactly this works up. Alright, so I'm actually majorly what I'm trying to read here from this particular line is I'm getting the path of the SD card. I hope everybody understands what I mean by getting the path of the SD card. It is like the directory structure. I'll show you that when I'll be debugging it up. Alright, I get the directory structure. I check whether I can write something onto the file system or not. Only if I can write, I can move it. I create a user info file taking two arguments. See, one is the directory and then the file name. So what is going to be the directory here? Can everybody respond back? What is going to be the directory here? That's correct. It has to be the path of the SD card, right? So I create a file writer object, give it this user info file to the file writer object straight away, create a buffered writer object, give it the file writer. So that is what I'm doing. I'm creating a file writer first using the info file. Give it a buffered output reader or say buffered writer, the file writer, buffered writer dot write name plus the end of line out buffered output writer dot write number plus the end of line, and just close this tree. Let me show you how am I doing it up. Firstly, I'll just do a run. Alright, I should do a debug instead. I'll show you how exactly it works. Alright, so here I have put up my debug point, and I'll choose debug as an Android application, and this will debug the application for me. Alright, so here if I key in my name, alright, I'll key Akshay's name here. Alright, here I give it any random phone number. When I click on save information, I'll be taken to the debug point. Let's see what am I doing here. So here I have the name and I have the number. Let me show you what my name contains. It contains the text Akshay Jain, and the number, it contains 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 0. Create an end of line separator. So what my end of line now contains is a slash in, right? I get the information file system. If you see here, see the path. What exactly does the path identify for everyone? I need responses, guys, back onto the chat window very fast, because I have told you about this. What is this path containing? That's correct. It contains the URL of the SD card, or you can see the path of the SD card. It says mount/SD card. Is that correct? Now I check whether I can write information. So let's see whether I can write. If I go in, that means I can write it. Alright. I create a user info file, give it the file path, append the user info.txt file to the file path. Write everything onto the file system and close the stream. I do an F8 here. Let's go and find out our file. So here I go. So where I'll be finding my file here? Anyone? I'll first of all go into the mount. I hope everybody remembers the path. It was mount/SD card. I first of all go onto the mount. Then I go onto the SD card. Then I go onto the file. User info.txt. Let's pull this out. Let's go to the desktop now. Let's open it up with a WordPad here. All right, Rojan, it was there. There was some problem with your internet connectivity. I could see it up. Right, so there are no audio issues. It's just that it was some internet connectivity issues at your end. All right, I can see you off. I can see you log off here. All right, so you see Akshay Jain and the data. Where it is housed up? Let me show you that. It is housed up, Rojan, in case you might have messed it up. It's mount. Under the mount, you have the folder SD card. Under the folder SD card, you have to find out this file. All right. And then I pulled it out and showed you the contents. But if I make use of anything that I can write onto the file system, anything that I can read from the file system without letting the user know, is that a possibility? How many of you remember how can I add permissions, or why do I need to add permissions? How many of you remember that? No, it's like how I can add as a part of manifest, but why I need the permissions. Everyone, I need responses back onto the chat window. Alright, so Rojan says we have to let the user know. But Rojan, in my case of external storage directory, what I'm necessarily doing is I can actually access any file of the SD card of the system, of the user. Everybody agrees here, disagrees? Alright, so if I'm making use of something like this, wherein I can delete a file of the user, I can modify the file of the user. So what do I need to do here? I have to add a permission. Everybody check this permission up. What this permission says? it says uses a permission to write something onto the external storage. Everybody got my point here, what I'm trying to say? Because I can make changes to the application folder of the user, I should make my application know the user whenever he installs this application that you can just make, or say this application can make changes to the SD card. How I add it up? I go on to manifest, go on to the permissions, go on to add, go on to users permission, click on OK, find an external storage directory permission here, write to external storage. Here you find that, do a control S and this will get saved to your manifest file. So now I have this duplicate, let me delete one. Alright, I hope this is clear to everyone, how we'll be adding permissions, why we need to add permissions and all kinds of these theories. I hope everybody can hear me up. Akshay, I have already told you how you'll be doing that up. I showed you why we do that up and how we do that up. Go on to manifest, go on to permissions, go on to add, go on to users permission, click on OK, find the permission that you want to add up. So the one that I'm going to add up is write to external storage. I select this one up and I do a control S. Alright. That is how I'm going to add up. But we haven't read back from the file system. So let's do that small exercise of reading back information from the file system as well. So here I'll disconnect. And here let's go on to read the file. So here you see the directory, appending the file path to the directory and getting a file out of it. Reader object, string line, counter, line equal to read.line, counter 0, set the name, counter 1, set the number. That is what I'm doing here. Let's do a run and now you all can see the changes. Alright, the value being read from the file system and being stored or shown in the application. Any person having any doubts in understanding the internal and external storage for storing the files onto the device and then reading back from it can respond back onto the chat window. Any questions, any queries? I'll wait for everybody to respond back. I hope this is clear to everyone. Ajay, Akshay, Ankit, Rojan, anyone having any doubts here? Now let me show you something. Suppose I'm having to write information onto the file with a DB construct. So I haven't told you a SQLite working example yet, but I can show you something here which can be used inside your application creation in order to have a database like construct. For example, you are storing some data like this: name, course, and I say assignments, and I also do a project here. Alright, this is the database construct that I want to have. So name goes like this, course goes like this, assignments goes like this, and projects go like this. If I have to represent this kind of information, can I represent this with a file system? An exact database structure. All right, Rojan says yes. All right, Ajay says no. All right, strange. Rojan, can you just tell me how am I going to do that? Should I just tell you about this, or you have some inputs into it? All right, so I'll just unmute Rojan here, and he'll actually tell you how you can have a database like construct inside your file creation. Rojan, I assume that now the delimiters will come into place, right? All right. I'm just unable to unmute Rojan here. Let me just check. All right, Rojan, I am just unable to unmute here. Unmute you here. All right, I'll just explain it up. Rojan, all right, I'll do it for you. All right, so here I have to store the information. Whenever I'll be storing an information, I'll be using a delimiter here. I can use a tilde as a delimiter. Everybody just understand what I'm trying to say. So necessarily, I'm storing information onto my file with every line containing 4 columns. All right, every row, I would rather say call it a row. Every row containing 4 columns. Inside every row, I am having to delimit or split this file up. For example, I read 1 row. Similarly, there are 10 number of rows here, anything that I have in the rows. So here I have 10 number of rows like this. I read information from those 10 rows using my file system reading reference. Store them up as an array objects. Store them up as an array of string variables. On the every single element of the array, what am I going to do is create another array list of strings. All right, and then what I'm going to do is split this particular array object, every single object, on the basis of tilde. So what it will return to me is name will be Amit, course will be Android, assignments will be class 1, and then the projects will be XYZ. So if you are not having a database like Construct, you can still play with the application file system and get yourself a neat and nicely scripted database just using the delimiters. Anybody having any problems understanding the creation of or using a flat file in your application for the database kind of a purpose? And let me tell you, since this is a flat file, this will have its precedence over a database. It might not give you all the query mechanism, all right? Like it will always work on a select star pattern, but it is very fast as compared to a database. I hope everybody understand what I'm trying to say. How our name course are in tabular form. Actually, if you see here, one row, one single row, every line that I'm picking up from the database is being represented by a single row of database. Just let me know if you agree with this or not. Akshay, just let me know onto the chat window if this is clear so that I can move ahead. It's just that the one line that I'm picking up, all right, the heading, that has to be taken care of by the user. So whenever I'll be inserting data here, Akshay, I know the first element recognizes name, the second one recognizes course, the third one recognizes class, and the fourth one recognizes the XYZ project. So that is something that is a mutual understanding of the developer. Developer knows how he's storing the information, and developer also knows how he's retrieving it back. All right, so the heading, if I have name, if I read the value 1, I know it is of name. If I read the value 2, I know it is of course. If I read the value 3, I know it is of assignments, and similarly the value XYZ, it is of projects. I hope this is clear to you now, Akshay, what I mean here. Let me know onto the chat window if this is clear, Akshay, so that I can just have the understanding. No, we'll be doing it in same line, single line. This is one line of action. This is second line of action. Akshay, every single line is containing a row object of the database. Heading is something, if you want to pick it up from the database, you can also do it like this. The first element can be the heading. Just delimit this on the basis of escape sequences or a tilde sign. Alright, if you want to have it like this, the heading being picked up from the column, you can do it like this. The first line that you will be reading up, alright, will be the heading in this case. Alright, so if I say today for project work you do not know how to work with a database, so I hope and I assume that everybody can work with a file system for now, and then in the progressive enhancements they can replace this up with a database. Just let me know if my understanding is correct here. Everyone, I assume that this is clear to everyone, so there's no problems for anyone if I'm using a database or not. Still you people can work on it, right? Ankit and Akshay, I haven't got any response from you yet. Alright, now we'll be talking about the animations in Android applications. Alright, so I think this is going to be a fascinating topic for everyone, understanding how you can animate objects in Android application. Alright, so there are two types of animation that you can do with the animation framework of Android. Alright, one is the frame animation and the second one is the tween animation. Alright, so there are two kinds of animation that we can take care of in Android applications, the frame animation and the tween animation. So the class that you'll be using in order to use the animation framework is android.view.animation.animation. Alright, so let's first of all talk about frame animation. So a frame animation is a series of frames that are drawn one after the other at regular intervals. So it's like what I'm having is I'm having all the frames that depict a motion. Alright, suppose I'm having a pendulum kind of a motion, alright, it just moves to and fro. So what I'm having is I'm having all the basic components, like all the intermediate frames of the pendulum. Whenever it moves, it has to start, it has few frames in middle, and then it has few frames at the end. Everybody understands what I'm trying to say here? What everybody understands what I'm trying to mean by a frame here? That's correct. Akshay says multiple picks. That's correct, Akshay. So this swapping of the images one after the other in a frame kind of an animation is handled by the animation drawable class. Let's see a working example of it. Alright, so here I have the example from frame animation. Alright, let me show you what exactly I have here. So here what I have is, I have a single image view here. Inside the frame animation, I'm having a single image view. Can everybody see this up? In the layout file, I'm just having an image view. Alright, now let's go on to the frame animation activity.java. I'm setting the content view, creating an image view reference here. I say animation equal to image view, getting it from the XML, and here check the main purpose. I'm saying animation dot set background resource. Here you see a file which says r.drawable.animation list. Let's see and find where this file is located. I go on to resources, I go on to drawable, and I have a file which says animation list. If I open this file for everyone, It contains a list of animation objects. Can everybody check this out? Alright, what I'll do is I'll let you all take a look at this file first, and then I'll be asking you a few questions. If you're not able to answer them, I'll be answering it for you. I hope this sounds good to everyone. Just to test your understanding. Just to test your understanding. Let me know whenever you are done. Rojan, Ankit, Ajay, Akshay has just gone offline sometime back here. I just don't know what is the problem. Might be some internet connectivity issues here. Is everybody looking at the code here? Alright, here goes my question. What you can understand from these pieces of code? Can anybody understand anything out of these lines? I hope everybody can hear me up. Alright, Ajay says this contains a list of frames in the drawable folder. It's different sequence of pics which form an animation. That's correct. Very good. Alright, so let me tell you about these few attributes. Alright, Rojan, very good. Impressive. Alright, so here I'm saying I'm having a list of animations. Just see. One shot equal to false. That means this animation will go on in repetition. If I set one shot equal to true, it will just finish one motion and stop. If I just set it to false, it will be repetitive. I create all the objects and put it up in an animation list. I'll show you something here. What exactly is being done here? I go to the drawable folder. Let's go to the desktop here. Go on to new folder. Do a paste here. Alright, see. Now everybody just see this up. So here I go on. Can everybody see this frame in motion? This is what I'm doing when I'm pressing next onto all the images. Everybody understands this? What is being happening here? So what I'm doing is I'm just pressing next onto all the image views in order to have this kind of a motion. The similar next behavior that I'm doing from my keystrokes, I'll be doing it from the animation list.xml file. Ajay, Rojan, Akshay, Ankit, anyone having any doubts here? Alright, Akshay just missed it out. Akshay, I'll just do it for you again. Alright, I'll just show you what exactly I meant here. I'm having a few files, Akshay, that depict a motion. Alright, I just open this up and just see what am I doing. I'm just doing a next, and this is going for a frame animation for me. This is holding an animation for me. Is that correct, Akshay? Just respond back onto the chat window if you can see this up. Presently, I'm doing it on the key press, right? On the key press of my computer. But what I'm necessarily doing in frame animation is I'm letting the animation class handle the background resource that is being changed from r.drawable.animation list. And the change of every image is at a duration of 20 milliseconds. Everybody understands here? Any sort of doubts, any sort of questions here? Now let's do something. What am I doing is I'm just setting this as a background resource. Let me just do a run here. That's correct. It is list of images. Ajay, that's correct. And you can see this up. Can everybody see this animation in picture here? How does it look to everyone? This can be added up as a part of the project. Rojan, Ajay, and Akshay. Let me tell you, this is something which is not usually taught in any of the Android classes. And let me tell you, when you'll deploy this onto the device, it will work like anything. Ankit, I think the video, for in case to upload a video, you have to think of something. Not necessarily, Ajay. There are various ways of using animations, all right? So one of them is the frame animation. All right, let's go back to a question here from someone. Let me just open up this window here and see. All right, what is the use of using these list of images? Can we also upload a video instead? But video necessarily does not have any animation associated with it. Ankit, just let me know if I'm understanding correctly here. A video does not have an animation. A video has got all the frames that are actually in motion. There's difference between a video and an animation achieved with the help of images. That's correct. An image can be animated, Ajay. That's correct. I'm just answering to Ankit's query here. He asked me about video animation, but video does not need any animation at all. All right, very good few questions for everyone. Why frame animation is not the one that is majorly used? Can anybody think about it? Question for everyone. Why is it so that the frame animation is the one that is the least used? I need responses back onto the chat window. It is tough to make and not very smooth. Not necessarily erosion. Not tough to make at all. All you need is a several set of images, and that is what I just need. That's correct. Ankit says it is an old technique of animation. That's very correct, Ankit. That's correct, Ajay. It uses, instead it might not, it actually uses lot many resources. Alright, so there are two disadvantages, or say there are two things that go against the frame animation. First of all, you need to have n number of images that depict a motion. First requirement is that. So you have to have those images split it up using a splitting utility so that you have n number of images for a single motion. Alright, this is one thing. Then what you also need to do is you need to also load your drawable folder with these many number of images. Alright, that is in itself, it is like a very tiring process, tiring in a way, because the application, because the framework will need that many number of resources for this to be working on. Alright, so that is the two things that go against the frame animation. I hope this is clear to everyone, how exactly a frame animation works and how it has to be used inside the applications. Alright, I hope this is clear to everyone, right? Any person having any doubts here? If you would have seen, I have also associated a focus listener here. The animation will only start, if you see here, which is the other technique, can you please tell us? That is the tween animation, Grojan, that we are just going to cover. The other technique is the tween animation, alright? So you see, if I'm checking if the particular frame animation or say the window has focus, then only I'll be starting the animation, otherwise I'll be stopping this animation. That's correct, Akshay. We'll be sharing everything across. Do not worry on that part. And I'll also check with the support staff that why are the recordings being provided very late to the students. All right. All right. So this is how a frame animation works. Any person having any issues understanding the frame animation, you can respond back onto the chat window. Then we have the tween animation. So any person having any doubts understanding frame animation, you can respond back onto the chat window. If everything is fine, you can just write a go ahead. Alright, so we'll take a 10 minutes break here because tween animation is something that is a little trickier to understand for everyone and it is a lot more easy to implement. Let me also tell you about this. Alright, so let's have a 10 minutes break here and once we come back after 10 minutes, we'll be covering up tween animation. I hope this is fine with everyone. Everybody should have their breakfast if they haven't had any. Alright, and then let's meet after 10 minutes. Alright everyone, I'm back here. I hope everybody is here with me. Can I have responses back onto the chat window? Ajay, Akshay, Ankit, Rojan, anyone? Not on their desk here? Alright. So let's begin with the Android frame animation we have already covered. Now let's begin with the tween animation. So the tween animation is a simple transformations of position, size, rotation, etc. to the content of a view. So whenever I want to work on a tween animation, I'm majorly working with a view, right? Animation can be defined in the XML that performs the various transitions like rotating, the fading, the moving and stretching on a graphic. Whenever I say a graphic object, I necessarily mean an image view. If you want to perform more than one animation, you can define it in a set of animation objects, which we'll just cover up, right? So let's talk about the animations. What all are the types of animations that are supported? So there are necessarily 4 types of animations that are supported under tween animation. One is an alpha animation, the second one is the scale animation, the third one is the translate animation, and the fourth one is the rotate animation. I'll just cover every single one by one. So what is an alpha animation? An alpha animation is a fade in and a fade out animation. What I mean by a fade in and a fade out animation is something that is not visible and suddenly it becomes visible onto the screen. Alright, so there are few attributes to the alpha animation. One of them is from alpha. So these necessarily take the float values. Alright, these attributes take the float values wherein a float value of 0.0, right, is completely transparent, so that what it means is that the image view will not be visible on screen. The 2 alpha value, if I'm giving it to a 1, that means it is completely visible onto the screen. Let me show you a working example for this. So here I have an activity main. Under the activity main, what I have done is I have an image view, alright. Apart from the image view, what I have is I have few buttons at the bottom. For different kinds of animation, I have different kinds of buttons here. If you see here in the activity main.xml, I have an image view and I have also created the button click listeners alongside inside the XML. Alright, can everybody check this up? They are declared or say defined in the activity. They are here inside the activity but have been associated with the XML component only. I hope this is clear to everyone, the button click listeners being associated with the XML components. Well, let's move on to the main activity. Image view I have. Now I have created button click listeners to the various buttons. So just check what am I doing on alpha button click listener. I'm calling an animation object. The animation object will be loading an animation from r.anim.alpha folder. If you see here, I have created a special folder here for animations. If you see, go on to the resources, I have created an anim folder. Can everybody check this out? Ankit, I hope now the screen has just moved up because you were just logged off for some time. Just some internet connectivity issues. I could see it on my window, so that's why I'm saying. Now I hope you can listen to or see the complete screen. I hope everybody can see my screen scrolling up and down. Ankit, can you also confirm me that? Are you also seeing it like this? Akshay, you haven't responded. Akshay, are you able to see? It's working fine. Ankit, it is a little slow. Ankit, I just assume that it might be some connectivity issue at your end because everybody is not facing the same problem that is being faced by you, right? So just make sure that you're connected on a decent internet connection, having a decent bandwidth. Alright, so here I say on alpha button click listener, I have created an animation folder under the resources section, and I have created an alpha.xml file. If you see, can you just check it up? It has got an alpha animation attribute. Duration is around 5000 milliseconds. From alpha, I'm having a value 0.25, and to alpha, I'm having a value 1. So it's like 25% of this image will be visible, and it will go on to become fully visible after a time lag of 5000 milliseconds. Let me show you by running this up. Let it load up, and then we'll see it working on the emulator. It's taking some time to load. Let me just check. Alright, now you see, if I'll be clicking on the alpha button, it will give an animation to the image view. You can see that now. Can everybody just check this up? It was visible for the 25%. Now it becomes fully visible. Let me show you that. If I set this value, let me show you one thing. If I set this value to 0, it will give you a completely fade in, fade out effect. If I click on alpha now, you can see a complete fade in, fade out effect. I hope everybody is finding this interesting now. Alright, alpha animation means a fade in, fade out animation, right? So when I try to fade out, it has value 0. If I try to fade in, it has value 1. Very simple as that. Akshay, Ajay, Ankit, not finding it good anymore? Let me tell you, these are the concepts that give your application an advantage over others, right? Let's go back to main activity now. So this was about the alpha animation, right? Now let's see something else. Let's see a scaling animation. Can you all check this up? Very much like a presentation being going on, right? Let's see how we have achieved this up, right? Let's go on to scale.xml. Just give it a value, all right? Scale.xml. See a few parameters. From scale X, from scale Y. These two parameters identify where do you want the image to be placed up after the scaling gets done. So a value of 0, 0 means that the image will be placed up on its acute sense, all right, where it was supposed to be located. Pivot values. Can anybody tell me about what exactly one can think about the pivot values? Anyone who can think about the pivot values? I hope everybody can understand about the pivot values. It's the central focal point, Ankit. It is the central focal point wherein you want it to enlarge or contract from. It's like the center focus of the image. Pivot is where it has to stand up. Alright, so pivot X, pivot Y means 50-50%. What does it signify? Anyone? It signifies the axis, that is for sure, but it signifies the center. It signifies the center of the image. If you would have seen here, you see, if I go on to scale this up, this emerges from the center of the image. Got it? That's correct, Ajay. It works like that. Now 2 scale y, 2 scale x, 1 1 value means that it will start from 0 0 and it will go on to become 1 1. A 0 0 value means nothing is visible and a 1 1 value means completely visible. So if I change the pivot value here and I say call it a pivot value of 10% and give it a pivot value of 80%. Just see the changes that it will make to the application framework for handling the animation. Now see the changes. See everyone where it starts up. Alright, Srinivas has just come back. Srinivas, I think you lost connectivity in middle, right? Alright, I'll just ask Srinivas, I hope you can hear me up. I think you lost some connection in middle, right? Srinivas, we have covered a few topics in the meanwhile. We have talked about animations, right? So we have already covered tween animation, we have covered the frame animation. Right, so I think the video is going to be the one that will help you out. But again, if there is anything that you cannot understand in the video, Srinivas, you can just write me an email and I'll just respond back to you, right? So Srinivas, we were working on a scaling animation at present. If you see here, I'm working on an image view and this image view is being scaled up to give me an animated field. I hope you can see this up onto the screen. And let me tell you how are we achieving this up. We have created an animation folder under the resources files and we have placed appropriate XML files to load the animation onto the window. The scaling animation has got a few parameter lists that it supports. Alright, Srinivas has again just gone offline. Alright, no problems. So here you see everybody now understands what are these parameters for, what is the pivot values, what is the scaling values. Any person having any doubts in understanding these values can respond back onto the chat window. Anyone having any problems, any understanding issues, you can respond back onto the chat window. No, you can create one. Akshay, it does not exist. How you'll be creating one? Go on to animation folder, do a right click, go on to new, Android XML file, choose the type of animation that you want to work with. Can you see this up? Give it a file name and click on next and then place the values that you want to have. Alright, I see that the places where frame animation and tween animation could be very different. Or can tween animation usage, alright. Or can tween animation replace frame? No, I'll take it like that, Rojan. Both of them have got a different perspective. If you talk about a frame animation, right? A frame animation definitely looks good over a tween animation. I hope everybody will agree with me here. A frame animation definitely looks good over a tween animation. How many of you agree with it? Alright? But only the limitation of the frame animation, that is, like you need to have multiple frames, you need to have good amount of resources, is the one that makes the use of frame animation a little more, I would say, developers are not are susceptible to using frame animations just because of the image loads. Alright, Rojan, so in terms of a game, in terms of a game, we majorly use the tween animation, Rojan. Simple gaming, we use the tween animation for that. We do not use the frame animation. All right. If I talk about the iOS gamings, let me tell you about that as well. If I talk about games in iOS, then we always use the frame animation. We just, all right. I'll just check again, Rojan. Just don't know why I just attendee is muted by an organ. I just don't know why am I not able to unmute you. I just understand that everybody wants to talk here. Let me just see if I can just do something here. All right, no, Rojan, I'm just unable to unmute you today. I'll just ask what exactly is the problem here, but I'm just being unable to unmute you today. So if you want, I can just help you back onto the chat window. That is what I can do today. All right, Rojan, what I would also suggest to you is, I think everybody has my Skype IDs, right? Just let me know very quick. Everyone has my Skype IDs? All right, so I think we can have a 15-minute session after the class on Skype, Rojan. If you have any problems, I think we can have it up after the class. All right. So that is how you will be creating an animation. So I have two questions here. I have to resolve Akshay's query after the class and also talk to Rojan. All right. So just make it a point that you come up straight onto Skype after the class. All right. So then we have talked about the scale animation. Now let's talk about a translate animation. All right. Srinivas has just joined in back. See the translation image. Ankit says, can we use both the animation effects simultaneously? Definitely, Ankit, we can use them. But for that, you have to create a custom animation object, which I'll just show you in some time, right? Which I'll just show you in some time. First of all, just look at the translate, how it is being done. If I go on to the translate.xml file, you see a few things. Duration from y delta to y delta. Can everybody check this out? So if I have to have a translation from top to bottom, my from y delta is minus 100% p. If I just remove this value of minus and just run this up, can anybody tell me what should be the behavior of the application now? Minus 100% p to positive 100% p. Ajay says top to bottom, from bottom to top. That's correct, Ajay, and that should be the way. That's correct, Trojan. Let's run this up and see the effect in place. So if I do a translate here, you can see a bottom up image translation. Let's do it from somewhere else, from right to left. What do you say? Which value should I be using in this case? Can anybody tell me about this? It should be using a x delta instead. Let's copy this up and do a paste. And instead of the y, just replace the value to x. And just delete this particular line of code. So what this animation will do? Right to left, left to right. Anyone? Rojan, Ajay, anyone? Right to left, left to right. No, Ajay. That's correct, Trojan. Do a translate here. What is it? It is right to left. Right? So that is the correct answer to it. So the minus value will say, what will the minus value do here? That's correct. It will do a left to right in this case, Ajay. Let's run this up. So I assume that I have given you all the necessary things that you want in order to play with creating Android application. Is that correct? Now I think I can have everybody playing with this animation object inside their XML files. Let's talk about a rotate then. So rotate has a few parameters. The pivot values remain the same in picture. So if I do a rotate here, what is the rotation here? Clockwise, anti-clockwise, everyone. Is it clockwise, counterclockwise? It is anti-clockwise, Ajay. Alright, now let's do something here and do it a clockwise. Let's make a few changes. From degrees 0 to degrees 720. Will it make it a counterclockwise direction? So if I do a rotate here, it will do it a clockwise direction, right? And anybody see the view of this particular window? This value, can anybody tell me what is this value doing here? How many, I would say a circle rotation means how many degrees? A single rotation means how many degrees? That's correct, Ajay. It means 360. So if I'm giving it a value of 720, so it will rotate twice the number of times. Alright, so that is what the rotate does. Now let's talk about creating my own custom animation. In order to create one of your custom type, all you need to do is go on to animation folder, go on to new, Android XML file, and choose a set as an object here. Can everybody check this up? Which object you need to choose as an object? It is a set object. Can everybody check this up? Can everybody see this window here that I'm showing on screen? Alright, so create a set object. Once you have created a set object, right, then you can place your multiple animations inside it. Can everybody check this up? How many animations do I have here? Alright, I am merging here two kinds of animation, and the animations are a rotation and an alpha animation. Alright, so let's see by running this up. If I do a custom here, can you see both the animations in place? Can everybody see both the animations in place? Now let's do something different here. Let's do the alpha animation some more time as compared to the rotate animation. Can everybody see the changes? Alpha is running for more period of time as compared to the rotate. Can everybody check this up? Alright, so that is how you can make your own custom animation file and append your file, or say attach your file to your image view object and get this animation working. Let me just show you this complete example code here with the various button click listeners, so that if you have any problems, any understanding issues, you can ask me onto the chat window. You all can take a look at these methods here. I'll wait for 2 minutes here for everybody to take a look here, and if they have any questions, you can ask me onto the chat window. You can also let me know whenever you are done. All right, Rojan says he's done. So Rojan, any questions, any queries that you have? All right, Ankit wants me to run it up. I'll just do a run here. Ankit, it's already running. Just let me know which process you want to see again. Ankit, can you just let me know which process you want to see again? All right. Ajay says in get application context purpose. All right. Ajay, what we can do is, usually we should do is, I'll just let you know about it. Instead of using the get application context, we should be always making use of, you know what, main activity.this. Everybody remembers this? Ajay, do you remember that? All right. So this is the application's context. So single object working throughout the application. Can you see this up? Returns the context of a single global application object of the current process. Can you just check this up? This should only be used if you need a context whose life cycle is separate from the current context. So it is just that I have used a get application context. Rather, I should have used main activity.this as the application context. I hope this is clear to everyone. Ankita, all right. Anybody having any doubts here? All right. So I should assume that animation now is clear to everyone, and you can make use of alpha, scale, translate, rotate, anything in your applications from now on. I hope this is clear to everyone. Any person having any doubts here? And can you also do me a favor, all of you, all the attendees, can you just go on to edureka.in in the meanwhile and do a download for all the projects? Can everybody just do this small exercise for me? Log into your LMS accounts. All right, a few more things. All right, all right, no problems, Srinivas. I think you can do it later. No problems. All right, Srinivas, Rojan, Ankit, Ajay, everyone, every single attendee out of this batch. A few things that I want to have from you. Whenever you are writing me an email, everyone, whenever you are writing an email to me, just specify which batch and which class. Can everybody do me this favor? Because it's just that few people are from the same batch. I have same names from different batches. All right. Just specify the batch start date of yours and also which class, so that I can just make out just something that I wanted, because I missed out on Srinivas's assignment today just because I was thinking it was some other batch's assignment. So sorry for that, Srinivas, but I just checked my email today and I just got to know about this. I was just assuming that it is of some other batch. All right, so has everyone logged into your LMS accounts? Can you confirm me that? Apart from Srinivas, I understand. No problems. I understand your problem here. Alright, Trojan has finished downloading. So Trojan, you have finished all the project downloads, is that correct? Alright, let's do it for, let's let Ajay, Ankit also do the same practice. That's correct. It is all PDFs, right? That's correct. Ajay has also done that. Ankit, can you also confirm me whenever you are done with downloading? I'll wait for Ankit to also respond back, and then we'll complete the canvas first, and then I'll walk you through all the project examples. Ankit, have you downloaded? All right. Ankit, can you just go on to the project section that you're seeing on your LMS? Can you just check this up? A project section might be shown on your LMS. Just let me know whenever you find that. Do you want me to show you the window? All right, I'll just do it for you, Ankit. Do not worry on that part. Yes, it will take some time if you just keep on exploring yourself. I'll just show it to you. Just go on to edureka.in. Just log in using your accounts. So I prefer log in with my Facebook account here. Once everybody logs in, you will be given access to your LMS. Go on to my courses section here. Go on to Android development. Right? There you will be finding something at the bottom which says Android project. Just expand this up and just download all these projects. Everyone has to download all the projects. Can you see this up? The 4 projects that everybody has access to. Ankit, I hope you can see this up. Just let me know onto the chat window. Alright, so I hope everybody has downloaded from the same place. So please, after completion of download, we'll just look into it later. We'll first cover Canvas and then we'll look into it. Alright. So Ankit, you can start the download and just come here. Alright. So that we can just start with the topic here. Alright, now let's talk about Canvas. I hope people would have worked with Java. Srinivas, Rojan, Ankit, Ajay. What do you even think of Canvas? Can I have responses from everyone? Everybody understands the meaning of Canvas? Alright, Ajay, you do not have any idea. Let me tell you about this. Alright, whenever you draw something, Ajay, on Java applications, alright, or say on mobile Java, which we call J2ME, we actually draw it on a canvas. It's like a form that we just call various methods like paint, repaint, in order to generate some view, in order to remove some view, in order to refresh some view. Alright, so it's like something that is given to me as a blank object. I place something onto the blank object. I just remove something from the blank object. I place another things onto the blank object. Alright, so that is what a canvas is. It's like something that is very plain. The canvas object works the same in Android as well. Right? The canvas object holds the calls to the draw methods. If you want to draw something, you majorly need 4 basic components. First one is you need a bitmap that holds the various pixels. Whatever you are actually drawing has to be held by something. So that is where you need a bitmap that holds whatever you're drawing. Alright? A canvas, first of all, that is actually listening to the draw calls. That is where you will be drawing something. A drawing primitive, it could be, suppose you want to draw a line, you want to draw a square, you want to draw a rectangle, you want to draw a bitmap and XYZ components. And then you need a paint object. What is the color of the object that you are going to draw? How much should be the width of the object that you are going to draw? So these are all the things that are defined by the color, or say a paint object. Let's walk about everything one by one. So the paint object that you have, it is representing the brush. You can think of it as a brush that does the actual drawing. Views that draw itself is the on draw method. So whenever a view draw itself, it is done in the on draw method of the canvas. The canvas objects are the ones that allow you to perform drawing operations on it. For example, if you want to draw a line, you want to draw a circle, you want to draw a text, you would want to draw a bitmap. Alright, so that is all that is held. All these performance operations are held by a canvas object. Whenever you call an invalidate on the canvas, it forces the view to draw. It's like something that you are drawing, if you do not call the invalidate, it will not draw on the canvas. And because of the invalidate call, the on draw method is called. Let me show you by working a working example of it. How many of you have used the memo in Samsung applications, Samsung devices, memo application in Samsung applications? Has anybody used the memo application in Samsung devices? What is the problem here? It's not launching it up. Do a clean here. I just do not know what exactly is the problem here. We'll close the unrelated project here. Don't know what exactly is the problem here. Alright, a clean works now. Alright, it does not work here. Let me try out something different here. Just try it out because I just do not know what exactly was the problem. Alright, first of all, it is built for 2.3.3, so that is the reason why my emulator was having a OS version of 4.0. One of the problems that I can think here, let's see when this one runs up, are we able to see this up working? Let's wait for it. So Ankit, have you used that? So in that case, what do? You can draw anything onto the canvas. Is that correct? The memo application allows you to draw something onto the window. Rojan, all right. I hope everybody has used this up, right? All right, again, some problems here. It is giving me a null pointer exception, but where? Not able to understand what the problem could be. Find out a problem here. Let's take a look at that is all correct, I guess. That's correct, Ankit. That is paint, like. This is giving me headaches here. Alright, I'll just show you exactly how it works because I am unable to run this project up. Just switch my workspace and show you something that is created by a student of mine, and I'll just run this example of the canvas for you. Right, so this is what he has done here. Instead, I'll just run this up here. Right, I'll just do it like this. I'll just run this up here and I'll let you walk through my example code. Right, because that is not working, so we'll just run it here, actually make you see how a canvas looks like, and then we'll cover the example code from there. I hope this is fine with everyone. I understand that this is some problem here with the project not working up, but I hope everybody can just learn it up from here. What is happening here? Alright, so if I say the one that you are seeing here onto your window that is being covered with pink background is the canvas here. So this way I am drawing something onto the canvas. Alright, so here at present I am just having one paint object, which is 3. But the example that I have covered up, it will have a circle which will go along with the line. Alright, so I'll just cover that example up for everyone and let you understand what we can do with the help of a canvas. Alright, let's close this up. Alright, now close this up. Switch my workspace here again. Don't know why that program is not running, but I'll just look into it after the class so that I can do corrective actions onto the project. Rather, we'll just again try one more time for this to run. Alright, let me just give it a try again. Alright, it will not run today. Let's see this up. How am I running it up? How am I working with it? Alright, so let's call first of all, I have a drawing brush activity. Alright, so I have an activity which will be holding this paint object, or say the canvas. I'm having a my touch event view class which I'm generating a view dynamically. Whose view is being generated dynamically? Let me show you that. I have created 4 objects, the paint object and the path object. Can anybody distinguish between these 2 objects? I have told you the difference. The path object will be the one that will take the actual path where it has to draw. However, the paint object will take care of what it has to draw, what has to be the color, what has to be the width of the line that it has to draw. Right? So that is all taken care of the paint object. Alright, so I have a paint object and I have a path object here. I have few buttons, so let's not go into the button details as of now. If you see, I'm creating a view. Whenever I extend the view class, I can give this as a dynamic view to my set content view. You would see here, I create a touch event class TV and I'm giving this as a set content view. So what I'm holding here is only the canvas inside my application activity. I hope this is clear to everyone. It's like I'm creating a dynamic view and adding it up as an activity layout, right? Akshay, Ankit, Ajay, anyone having any doubts here understanding this concept? Then we'll move ahead. I hope this is clear to everyone. Ankit, haven't had any response from you. Alright, so here I go. I create a layout params of wrap content to the canvas here. Setting few objects to the circle paint and circle path. Circle paint and paint object. It's like what should be the color of the path that I'm drawing, what should be the style, what should be the join, what should be the width of the line that I'm drawing up. And similarly, I'm doing it for this circle. Any person having any doubts in understanding these pieces of code? Because it is like setting up the parameters for the paint object to work. Create a linear layout, right? Under the linear layout, I have added up few buttons, preset, which is going to clear the screen for me. So I added up to a linear layout. On click of the reset, I'm doing a path.reset and I'm calling post invalidate. Everybody knows what does invalidate do? It calls it on draw again. Alright, so I'm doing a reset on the path object and calling the post invalidate so that it can redraw the complete view. Here I have the on draw method. What am I doing in the on draw method, which takes canvas as an input argument? I say canvas.drawPath using a path object and a paint object. Why am I using both the objects? Because one object identifies the place I'm writing something and the second object identifies what is the type of object, what is the color of the line that I'm going to draw, what is going to be the width of the line. And similarly, I'm doing it a canvas.drawPath for the circle. As I said, in the example that I have created, what I have done is I have had a circle which moves along with the line just to show you that this is working up. Alright, extending the on touch event. In the on touch event, I'm getting the x and y coordinates. Just play along with these x and y coordinates on the basis of action down. That is, if I have clicked, I say path.move to point x and y. Wherever I have clicked on the screen, I just move the path variable to there. Whenever I'm doing a move, I say draw a line to point x and y. So the way I move, I'll be drawing a line. I'm doing a circle path dot reset because whenever I'll be drawing a line, I have to make my circle path also move along with the line. I say circle path dot add circle. Just remember, I'm doing a circle creation just a few milliseconds or say a few pixels in front of the line, so that the circle shows up at the end of the line. Everybody understands what am I doing with these particular lines, these three lines? Though I have already commented this piece of code, but everybody, I hope, understands what I'm doing here. Alright, Ajay wants me to repeat again. Ajay, the way I'm going to do it is like this. I'll just show you that. Suppose I'm drawing this path. Can you see this cursor of mine, which is the one that is as a circle here? Can you see this up, Ajay? If I'm drawing this line on paint, can you see my pointer here, which just moves in front of the line, right? It is moving in front of the line. So what I'm doing here is, I'm asking a circle to be added up 30 pixels in front of the line. That is what I'm doing with this line. If you see here, the way it works here, the same way it is working there. Now I hope this is clear to you, Ajay. Can you respond back? Alright. So that is how you have to work with the circle path. Whenever I have taken the action up, everybody understands what is action up? Alright, let's do a small exercise for everyone. What is action down? Everyone has to respond back. What is action down? What do you call action down on a touch event? What is the state you can associate here? I hope everybody understands what I'm trying to say here. Do not give me that look, blank look, as if I'm not. Alright. Rojan says the touch and drag down. No, it's not the same. Let me tell you. The action down is like this. When I have touched. Rojan, whenever I touch on the screen, I get into the motion event dot action down. When I do some dragging, whether it is from left to right, whether it is from right to left, or top to bottom and bottom to top, I go into the action event, which is for the move. So after down, if I just do a drag, I go into action move. Got it? Everyone, can you all respond back? Ajay, Ankit, haven't got anything from you. Now let's talk about action up. What you can think when I talk about action up? That's correct. Rojan says removing the finger from the screen. So whenever I remove the finger from the screen, if you go into this paint, whenever I remove the finger, what happens to the circle? Just remember, see, what happens to the circle? It moves off. Is that correct? It moves off, right? So that is what I'm doing here. I say circle path dot reset. Give it a value 0. And finally colon invalidate. So whatever action has been taken care of, that have to be reflected with the help of a canvas. So that is what I'm calling. I'm calling invalidate on the canvas. Any person having any doubts in understanding this example code can respond back onto the chat window. I'll let you all take a look here. I'll let you all take a look at the motion event class. If there is anything that you're not able to understand, you can ask me onto the chat window. Just let me know whenever you're done so that I can scroll down. I'll give you all a few minutes. Do you all want to take a look here, or is this understood? Just let me know. Ajay, can you also respond back? Ankit, Srinivas, anyone? All right. All right. Let me also tell you one thing which I was doing here. If you want to add up, or say if you want to take the image that you have created, that is, you want to save whatever you have written onto the canvas as an image, this attribute can be used here. tv.getDrawingCache. So if you see here, my getDrawingCache will return me a bitmap. Can everybody check this up? So if you want to save your drawing as an object, you can use it up, save it up using a bitmap object. I hope this is clear to everyone. Any person having any doubts here? So a few inputs for the project as well. All right. These are setting the properties. And let me tell you about the project completion and the evaluation plan now. So every student is expected to create an Android application as a project work for the course. Certificates will be provided to the students after project submission and evaluation. So just remember, the certificates will be provided only after you create a project and submit. At the time of project submission, there is going to be a Skype interview will be conducted, wherein your project will be evaluated on the basis of usability, functionality, and the design. If there is any problems, anything that you need, we are always there to help you onto the forum and on Skype, right? So after you submit, it's like project gets started from 4th week onwards. During the 4th week onwards, if you have any doubts with specifications, you can ask us. And by the end of the 4th week, you'll be submitting the designs. Let me tell you how you'll be submitting the designs. For example, you have created an activity. An activity looks like this. Go on to the DDMS perspective and take a screenshot. Save this copy of screenshot and send it over to us as an attachment. So if you have 10 activities, you have to send us the 10 screenshots. Let's refresh this up. I hope this is understood to everyone how you'll be sending the screenshot of the UI wireframes. You can just do a save and just send it over to us. If you have 10 activities, I'll be requiring 10 UI designs. I hope the screen has got refreshed. Ajay, were you not able to see what I was doing? Just let me know whether this is clear. All right. All right, so you'll be submitting the UI designs. Then after the UI, you didn't see anything. I'll just do it for you again. Go on to the DDMS perspective, Ajay, and click on this camera button. Once you have created your activity, just click on the camera button here. So once you click on the camera, it will open up the emulators window for you. All right, I'll just do a refresh here. And you can save the image onto your desktop or say onto your machine and just share it across with us whenever you'll be sharing the UI wireframes. I hope now it is clear to you, Ajay. Let's close this up now. So from the 5th week onwards, you will be starting on the coding part, all right? So by end of 5th week, you'll be getting the coding done onto the project, and then do a support and testing during the 6th week of the project, and finally you complete the project. Once your project has been completed and submitted, we'll be taking 3 days to review the project, and then after a week's time, we'll be distributing all the certificates to all the attendees. Any person having any doubts in the complete project plan, you can ask me onto the chat window. Any person having any problems in the complete project plan? I hope everybody has downloaded the projects. Can you all do a mock reading of the projects? Whichever you feel like understandable, there is any doubt that you people would like to ask me onto the window. All right, Ajay says, will you be available in between of the week, like on Tuesday? I can be available, Ajay, but I'll be available late. I'll be available after 9 or 9:30. So I assume if that is fine with you, I think I'll be available for you on the weekend, on the weekdays. All right, Ankit says, is it restricted that we have to submit the project within the 6th week? Ankit, that I think this also, that's correct, Ajay. Ankit, I also assume that this depends on the project complexity. It's like if you're doing something that is very good, and I think if we can allow you an extension of a week, then definitely I can give you the extension of a week, but not on these projects that we have put up for you. These projects have been put up for you to be completed in the time frame of 2 weeks. If you have something up your mind, and if you are working on a good idea, and which I assume, which I think that will take another week to get completed, and then it will be in a better shape, I can definitely give everybody that extension. I hope everybody is fine with this extension part. So can I have the responses by end of day today? Which project you people will be working on? Can I have that assurance from everyone? Can I have that assurance? Srinivas, Rojan, Ankit, Ajay. All right. By end of day today. All right. No problems. No problems, Ajay. All right. Ankit, can I also have your responses back onto the chat window? You all have downloaded the projects. You all can read or go through the project descriptions. If there is anything that you are not able to understand, you can let me know onto the chat window, or say you can just write me an email and I'll get back to you on your respective emails. But make sure that you do give it to me by end of day today. If there is any project that you want to work on your own, you are all very welcome onto that. Just I'll make sure that the project is something that is doable. All right. No problems, Ajay. I think once you give me an outline of the project, all right. Once you give me an outline of the project, I think we can discuss during the week. What I want from you is just an outline. If you are doing some project all by yourself, just give me an idea what exactly is the project, and then definitely I'll work on it, or I'll respond to your emails. I hope this sounds good to everyone. Ankit, haven't had any response from you. Sure, I'll do that. I'll give it to you, Ankit. I think I have shared it with everyone. I think Akshay has just left. All right. I hope this is with everyone now. Everybody has my Skype IDs. No problem, Sanket. I think you can take your time till end of day today. So that is all fine. All right. Any questions, any queries from anyone? Anyone having any doubts, any questions, any queries? I'll wait for another 15 minutes here. If you people have any queries, any concerns here, I'll be responding back to your queries. So you always have around 15-20 minutes for the question and answer session. So any questions, any queries? How do I find the meaning of an error? What is that, Ajay? Meaning of an error, what in exact sense? Can you just let me know a few errors so that I can tell you what exactly could be the meaning of them? Just give me a few examples of the error that you are coming across so that I can tell you. All right, Ajay says there's an error in my application and it shows, but I don't know why. Good, very good, Ajay, you have come up with this today. Let me show you how you will be working on it. Let me do something and create an exception in my project. So here if I go, all right, I go on to the external storage here. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to read something from the file system and save it as a text view. But what I'm doing is I just remove the references. I'm creating my own area. I'm removing the references of the text view name and number. So what will happen in this case is as soon as I'll be reading the file, I'll be getting an exception, which is going to be a null pointer exception. Let me show you that. So my application will crash down very first time it will get launched. All right, not doing so. Let me see where is this text. All right, I think I have got it at the wrong place here. All right, I'll do it like this. Let's save something. Now I go back, launch it again. Now I'll be getting a null pointer. Again, I think the information is not getting saved here. Now let's go back to our run as. Not launching the newer version here. Let's go back now. Alright, it's not working here. This one is not working. Let me just create an example here. Okay. Let me go do something. Let me do something. Alright, let me force an error on the media player. So here if you see, I'm actually creating a media player object here. If I do not create this media player object, this will give me a null pointer exception whenever I try to work on a media player play button. Let me just show you that. How do you use the codes in our projects? The codes which we get from after the class recording. Ankit, in order to use that, you have to import them up. You have to import them up within your workspace. All you need to do is go on to File, go on to Import, Existing Projects into Workspace, click on Next, select the archive file that is shared across with you, all right, browse it up, and then add it up onto your workspace. So that is how you can do this. I hope this is clear to you, Ankit. Ajay, I'm just forcing an exception for you, all right? Just wait on for a minute. And I'll show you what exactly is the exception and how you can trace out what exactly happened and why the application crashed. If you all remember, I had told you that DDMS is the point which everybody can refer to whenever something goes on in the application. Everybody remembers that? So if you see, there's a continuous log that is going on here. If you see here onto the log cat, there's a continuous log that keeps on going here. Right? Once my application will be up, it will also add up few to the log system. Let it run up and then I'll show you a media player giving me an exception. I don't know, my system has just gone up so slow, I guess. And it was not opening one project which was giving me some weird errors. Let's wait for it to complete the operation. Let's see the progress here. It's in the initial stages. Alright, now it seems to have launched this up. Alright. Alright, so here I have the media player. Alright, now if I click on play, can you see that? It gives me a crash. If I go on to the crash, I'll go on to my activity logs. If you see, it is all blooded here. Alright, now let's find out what could be the reason behind it. It gives me a null pointer exception, which I had already told you. It is going to give me a null pointer exception. It is giving me a null pointer exception on the on-click listener of 32 line. Media player activity dot line 32. Can everybody check this up? Can everybody check this up? Ajay, can you just look into it? It gives me a line. Let's go on to the Java file then. Do a control L and find out line 32. What is it showing? It is showing media player dot set on completion listener. So the object that is supposedly null here is the media player object that I can identify, right? Now I have to check whether I have initialized this media player somewhere or not. If you see, I'm having this media player initialized as null. That is, I have not had this media player initialized to anything. So that's why the null pointer exception. And let me tell you about this. Android applications majorly give you the null pointer exceptions. Alright, so that is how you can trace out your applications and find out if there is any sort of exception that is coming up, and that is how you can trace it up and resolve it. I hope this is clear to everyone. That's correct. I understand. I understand. When I started off my career as an Android application developer, I too found it a little complex to use. But as with time, now we have become familiar with it. Right? The same thing applies to all. Just the practice, and that is all that you need. Everybody is born intelligent. Let me tell you about this. It is just that we do not practice and just come across something. Unless it is something that we have tried, we always work on it. If it is not, we find it a problem working with it. So that's why it works. Alright, so any other questions apart from this, Ajay, Akshay, Ankit, Rojan, Srinivas, any other sort of questions that you people have? I hope this example that I had shared for Ajay serves the purpose for a lot of people, right? Let's close this all. So should I assume that whatever has been taught in the classes till now is clear to everyone? No problems, Akshay. I think that is all fine. You can take a look at the recordings later, right? Can I have the confirmance? Whatever has been taught has been understood by now. All right, Srinivas doesn't seem to be responding. All right. All right then, this is all that I have for all of you in today's class. I hope to get everybody, get from everyone the projects that they will be doing inside my inbox very soon. All right. And let me also tell you about this. Everybody has to fill up the feedback form that comes up after the class. All right. Just make sure that everybody fills up the feedback form after the class. All right. This is all that I had for everyone today. All right. Have a very good day. Take care. All right, and let me tell you, I had a few questions. I think a few people were supposedly going to meet. This one, and second one I do not remember. Rojan, was it you? Akshay will be covering that code in the coming class. All right, do not worry on that part. For multiple media players. No problems. Let's meet up on Skype then. See you all then. Have a very good day. And just remember that you all have to fill up the feedback form that comes up after the class. Have a very good day. Take care.
The organizer